This is Taghazout, a small cluster of whitewashed buildings standing as the centrepiece of Moroccan surfing. Between Agadir to the south and Imiswan to the north lies around 24 epic waves. Everything from beaches to slabs, and what the country is best known for, its right-hand point breaks. With year-round sunshine, temperate climate, wicked culture, European accessibility and cheap living, it's no wonder so many surfers flock here. So while Taghazout might have a piece of what everyone wants from a surf destination, such fame also brings a lot of negative sides. So in today's video, we're going to explore everything you need to know for a surf trip to Taghazout. Firstly, you need to go during the right season. So between December and March, this is the prime swell window for Morocco. This is when swells from the North Atlantic hit the Moroccan coast. So if you want to all but guarantee yourself waves, this is the time to go. Outside of this season though, it's summertime, it's generally stinking hot in Morocco, and it's more windslop type waves. Now, there are loads and loads of different waves in this area, obviously not going to break them all down. What I will say though is that any surf break in this vicinity, if it's named on a map or you've read about it online, it will be really crowded. You basically can't surf any of the spots without at least 20 to 30 people out, especially if they're good. First up is La Source. This little stretch can have sort of beach break peaks. There's like the break off this suck rock sort of section and roll off that, goes fat, and then it kind of breaks down the beach a little bit into broken up peaks. It can be very closey, so there's a lot of closeouts. It's always really crowded because it's a really easy surf spot to go and check just outside of Taghazout. Then looking out from the source, you've got Killers out to the right. Now Killers is like a 15-20 minute ordeal to actually get out to. At high tide, it's a real long paddle. At low tide, it's a walk and then a paddle. And yeah, while it might take a bit of extra effort to get out into the lineup compared to the other waves, it is a really cool wave, and although you'd think it doesn't really deter the crowd, so it's still going to be pretty crowded out there. Bananas down towards Agadir is like a mellow right-hand point. Again, really crowded because it's a lot more sort of user-friendly than some of the other waves. It's really fat, bit of a burger, but if you're riding a mid-length or a log, it's a good wave to go and surf. And yeah, when it's smaller, it's like beginner, intermediate type spot. Just next to it, you've got Devil's Rock, which is like beach break peaks. There's like a right wedge off one side and then just sort of A-frames along this little stretch of sand. It can be a really fun wave. I've had a couple of fun surfs there, but it's also the go-to for like loads of different surf camps and surf schools. So often you can rock up and think, oh, there's really nice like glassy little peaks. But then there'll be like 30 or 40 surf school patrons all just sort of descending on the lineup at once. And then finally, to the creme de la creme of Moroccan surfing, you've got Anchor Point. So compared to all the other waves in the area, Anchor Point really is just the best. There's no other way to describe it. It just has a more perfect, easier to surf bend on the wave, and yeah, it can just have lots of different sections to it. It can have sections for turns, tubes, big open carves, like thinner sections. Like, it just has a bit of everything all in one wave. Super long, needs a little bit more swell to get really good, but when it does, it's by far the best wave in the area, and for that reason, it is also tremendously crowded. If Anchors has got waves, you're never going to be surfing it uncrowded. And from what I've heard, Anchors has been crowded since before I was born, so yeah, it's not going to change anytime soon. Now, you've kind of got three different zones that you could stay at. Firstly, you've got Taghazout itself, which, like I said, it's just sort of this real condensed cluster of accommodations and like restaurants, cafes. It's kind of got everything all just sort of on this one beach. It's sort of a maze of little streets that spill out onto this sort of one beach. You've got a few points like in town. You've got like Panoramas and Hash Point, which are kind of mushy and mellow. And then from there, you could, in theory, walk out to Anchors. Loads of accommodations in Taghazout. It's a bit more expensive if you're staying in Taghazout. The restaurant's a bit more pricey. It's a bit more Western, you know, kind of what you'd expect. Alternatively, you could stay down in Agadir. So obviously Agadir is a big city. It's sort of 20-25 minute drive away from sort of the main Taghazout area and where all the surf breaks are. But also there's more options in terms of like luxurious stays down there. You know, it's where you've got all the big name hotels like Hilton, Radisson, all those kind of places. So if you're traveling with a family and you want somewhere nice, like an all-inclusive, I'd definitely recommend staying down there. For this trip, me and my partner, we stayed in a place called Tamrat, which is sort of between Agadir and Taghazout. But Tamrat's kind of like this big bustling sort of town set upon a hill. I guess it used to be sort of where a lot of local people lived, and it still is, but you've kind of got this new sort of emerging surf town, like kind of outside of Taghazout, because Taghazout's quite busy and there's only so much space there. It's almost like spread to Tamrat. Like we've explored already, Taghazout and all the waves around here are really, really crowded. There's not really any escape from it. And to be honest, it's so crowded that it's one of the reasons that will stop me from going back. You kind of have two different sorts of crowds as well. When it's smaller and kind of mushy, all the waves kind of have this intermediate sort of surf camp type crowd where, you know, you rock up at a beach or this little point and you go, oh, it looks really fun, but there's sort of 30 like guys on foamies out there, and then there's people trying to surf amongst that, and you're just like, you know what, I don't actually even want to surf that. Then when it's good, you've obviously got way better waves, and the waves themselves are amazing, but then the level of surfing is much higher. So if Anchors is really good, there'll be sort of 50 plus people out along the whole point, and there'll be locals out there who'll be dominating, which, you know, locals dominating getting their waves is exactly how it should be. You know, whenever I go somewhere, I kind of just assume that the locals are going to take whatever wave they want, and I'm just going to get whatever they don't want. But yeah, it's sort of next level in Morocco. They seem like locals seem to just burn each other, burn anyone, and you get lots of waves like wasted and ruined because of it. And then you've got everyone else like battling for the scraps. So it's a really hectic environment. I've found it so frustrating sometimes. Obviously, I'm not entitled to get any waves. I was just feeding off the scraps. But compared to a lot of other crowded breaks around the world, I definitely found it more frustrating. Water temperature, so the water temperature is lovely in Morocco. So it sort of hovers around that 17 degrees Celsius mark. So I tried 2 brand new surface suits during my trip to Morocco. I tried the 4-3 Remix model. So the Remix is made of Yamamoto rubber, which is sick and feels really nice to wear. I was too hot in the 4-3 really, but it was nice when I first paddled out. It was nice and flexible as well, so really, really good suit. I was pretty stoked with it. Would love to try it in slightly colder conditions. I've actually been wearing it at home as well with a hooded vest underneath because it's midwinter here, and it's actually been pretty good for that as well. Then I tried the 3-2 Light model, which yeah, was a lot more suitable for Morocco in the afternoons when it was a bit hotter. It was nice to chuck that on, still be nice and warm, and this thing's really flexible. And this is one of the most affordable suits that you'll find online. So if you want to check out Surface's full range of suits, see the link in my description and use the code DAN10 at checkout to get 10% discount. I definitely recommend hiring a car in Morocco. The roads themselves are okay in Morocco, but I can't say the same for the actual driving. There's some terrible road usage in Morocco, and drivers here tend to neglect their indicators and use the lanes more as guidelines. So you can often be driving, the road's fairly nice and all marked out, but then you've got somebody driving in the middle of the lanes or like swerving round a roundabout with no indication. It's kind of hectic. It is more okay around the Taghazout area and where the waves are, but once you go into Agadir it's a little bit more hectic, so just be really cautious on the roads. When you're driving to all the surf spots, most of the car parks will just have a guy in the car park charging 10 dirham to park. It's not a scam, it's just they sort of watch your car. If you can't drive or you don't want to rent a car, stay in Taghazout and then you can walk out to Anchors and some of the other waves. These days, the area is pretty safe. I was traveling with my girlfriend, and although we were together most of the time, she said she felt pretty safe most of the time. It used to be a lot sketchier and a lot less welcoming, but now it seems like it's a lot safer. You've still got petty crime, you know, like if you're leaving your wetsuits on your wing mirror, something like that. Things like that get stolen, just like anywhere, so just be wary of that. As for a cost breakdown, this is sort of what we spent on our trip for 10 days. You know, we weren't going to the cheap places to eat. We were just trying to find like the best, the nicest restaurants. So we're probably spending a lot more than what you might if you were on a really tight budget and traveling by yourself. So to summarise, there'll definitely be surfable waves in the season, it'll be sunny, it'll be warm if you're coming from further north, and you can live for a fraction of what you can in Europe or North America. It's definitely going to be crowded, so as long as you go there with that in mind, you'll be fine. It's one of those places you can't really escape it, you kind of just have to accept it for what it is. Everyone wants what Morocco has, you know, the cheap living, the sun, the fun, easy to surf waves. So I hope that gives you sort of an all-encompassing view of what to expect from a trip to Taghazout. It's still the main season there now. Hope you've enjoyed this video, hope you found it helpful. Thanks for watching and see you in the next.